Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. If you didn't join us last year in Scottsdale, it was an amazing time. We got to see a lot of new faces and a lot of familiar faces. That particular conference is this year going to be in Austin, Texas, and that is where I am based. It wasn't my mastermind that made that happen, but I will tell you, May in Austin is a beautiful time to visit, and our conference hotel, I've been there, I vetted it. It sits right on the Colorado River. It's a beautiful, beautiful property and facing the water. So if you can join us, I saw a lot of no's that haven't been to the FiLL before. Please join us. It's going to be a really great, a great event. So I want to talk about the execution gap, and I'm going to talk I'm going to flip back and forth. Because we've done a lot of work around execution within companies since the FiLL. And so I think it's really kind of important to talk about where our mindset was last year going into our first ever FiLL, where we focused on the 5 different gaps, and where we'll be headed today going into 2023 in our second event. The interesting thing about the gaps was that there was a workshop for each one of the 5 gaps at the FiLL. We spent over 3 months prepping the content and building out the workshops that we would present in the FiLL. We delivered those in 90 minutes. I think I have 7 minutes with you guys today, so we're going to be going really top line. So my goal with you today is just to kind of talk through kind of why execution is important to your business, and then a couple of highlights of what we saw come out of the FiLL 2022 that we've seen really be impactful within companies. So let's start with the premise. The work that we did last year, as I was thinking about the conversation that we wanted to have specifically around execution and how to improve getting done the right things in our business, is from an author. His name is Dan Sullivan, and we actually highlighted that book, The Gap and the Gain. But in a conversation that he was having with his co-author, he said, what's draining our energy isn't having too much work to do. It's actually dealing with the unfinished work that's dragging you down. So, you know, we go to work and we want to work on what's most timely and relevant. But if you're like most companies, you're still working on stuff from yesterday, stuff from last week, stuff from last month, maybe even from last year that's rolling into the new year. Anybody feel like that? So how do we shift that? How do we shift that perspective? And what's the payoff if we're able to restructure our companies so that we're effective executors? How do we get our leadership team focused on getting the right things done and then going to work every day and driving the initiatives that we're sharing with them as the entrepreneur? Those are the kind of the questions that were leading the work that we were putting together in preparation for the workshop. If this resonates with you and you're like, yeah, I need to be better at getting done the most important things, I want to share a few statistics with you. So number one, did you know only 23% of companies actively use a system for planning? That means 2/3, 75% or greater of companies are out there kind of just winging it. They know they need to get certain things done, but they don't know how to do what they want to get done. 86% of leadership teams, so now we're one layer down. So we know that the companies are kind of winging it. Well, the leadership teams within the companies that are being told what the initiatives are, only about 86%, or actually 14% of those leadership teams meet on a regular basis and have conversations about how to drive the initiatives in the organization. So 86% of those teams spend less than an hour a month, which is nothing, an hour a month, working on strategy. And then lastly, 67% of strategic plans fail due to poor execution. So we're a really creative industry. This really resonated with me. We're super creative as entrepreneurs. If you're working with your team and you ask anytime for ideas, we get tons of ideas. So we don't have a lack of things to work on. Where we really are kind of struggling with is in the actual getting done what we need to get done. So what's on the other side? If we could restructure our business and create an organization that does get done what it wants to get done, well, Businesses that have a clear system for planning and execution are 12% more profitable. And then businesses that have a clear process to execute their desired plan outperform competitors by as much as 120%. So this was all kind of like swirling in my head as we were working on the workshops for the FiLL 2022. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't really get excited about getting out of bed and going to do more work just for work's sake. But if you told me I could be 12% more profitable, and Candace is probably going to be smiling and shaking her head, or that I could, as a market leader, outperform the rest of my competitors in my marketplace by 120%, I would get out of bed for that. That's interesting to me. So we know that execution is huge for companies. And we know that the majority of businesses out there aren't practicing great systems for getting done what they need to get done. So I want to just kind of highlight a couple of really key points that came out of our work last year and talk about what we'll be doing in 2023. First of all, when we say a system for planning or process, we're not talking about a strategic plan or a business plan. We're actually talking about an execution plan. So organizing the tasks, the projects, and the initiatives in just the right way that it sets us up for success getting them done. So to be good at executing initiatives, you've got to have a really clear structure, you've got to have a process that you're following, and you've got to have a system that's easy to communicate to your leadership team. Going into the FiLL last year, we took our existing suite of planning tools, which is our 8 seasons calendar and our 5 functions planner, and we created a new system by layering them in different orders that would drive execution within organizations. That was a really big win. People started looking at our planning tools in a way different fashion, because now we got really good with our planning of identifying what needed to get done. Now we shifted the gears into actually doing that work and how to line it out so that our managers could help us. We also created 2 additional tools. Well, we created 1 additional tool and we revisited an old favorite. We created one called the Season Execution Worksheet that helps you kind of identify whether you were on track or not. And then we revisited the 13-week planner. So I'm going to just show those, if that's okay, Aaron, because those were highlights of the workshop. Number 1, 13-week planner. This is a tool that allows owners and senior managers to manage their leadership team more accurately. And so essentially, I had one of our salon owners say, oh, this is like project management. Okay, if that's what you call helping people put one foot in front of the other in order to stay on track to get something done that needs to get done vitally in the business, then yes, we're project managers. So this 13-week planner represents 3 months of time, and it links back to all of the planning in our 8 seasons calendar and 5 functions planner. But on a leader level, this allows them to map out just exactly how they're going to get done the work that they're supposed to get done. Many managers don't have the experience to execute on a level that many of our organizations require. They're kind of just bringing their way to organize their work from what they've learned to organize their lives. So if we don't give them additional tools to help them understand how to do what we're asking them to do, they're going to be reaching for what they do at home. And that could be that could be really risky. Okay, so 13-week planner. So the second one was a season execution worksheet. Now I want to hit this really quickly and wrap up. Was the season execution worksheet takes our work around execution and makes it visual. So on the first side, you can actually look at your organization, take what you wanted to get done for a specific season, compare what you actually did get done, and you get a numeric score. Now, once you have a score, that's something that you could look at visually and track your performance. If you don't like that score, you could kind of just scroll down if you follow my mouse. These represents the 5 functions of business. So you could look at those 5 areas of business and you could actually get a numeric score for performance for each of those. That helps you understand how you could improve, where you maybe are struggling, which area of your business is struggling, and which area is excelling. And then on the back side is our traditional closure. We ask you 3 questions, kind of like holding a mirror up for your business. You know, where do you need to get closure? What's your clarity, and what's your confidence? So these 3 questions help you understand how you need to pivot and adjust so that you can get more done in your business and move the obstacles out of your way. So okay, how did I do, Erin? That was a lot.
That was so good. And so, you know, again, what Heath does is really bring this, no matter how adept you are at Qnity tools or how new you are to Qnity tools, this is all a really spectacular system. And this workshop, both these workshops were hands down some of our participants' biggest takeaways for last year. And so the beauty is we're going to be doing it again this year in 2023, but building on it. And so, you know, a couple of things that I wanted to ask you, Heath, is number one, that season scorecard. I love that for so many reasons, because you can actually look at your execution for the entire business, but you could also break it down on a function level, right? So you could see, hey, we're only executing 62% in the finance function. You could also, well, and I'm curious to you, have you seen any clients actually do performance-based conversations around this? So let's say a manager is responsible for HR, right? Do you ever have them look at that and said, hey, use that plan to really coach their leaderships? Is that something you've seen done yet?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that specific question. This work with execution that started at the FiLL, we had it's kind of spun off in a lot of different directions because it's been so impactful for companies. We actually started 2 Qnity in Action coaching groups, one for single location and another one for more complex companies that are multi-location. And what we are seeing is that this work from just looking at all of our planning tools through the lens of execution is making a huge impact in their companies. The grade or the scoring system is the execution worksheet. And I will tell you, the conversations are out there. And if they start seeing that one part of their business is struggling more than the others, whether they need to talk to themselves, kind of have a conversation with themselves, or if they have a manager or a leader or a team lead that's responsible for that area of the business, yes, those conversations are happening.
I love it. And then my second question was, as you really look back from that event and that specific workshop and bringing to life to, you know, all of these tools around execution, what was your biggest takeaway? Obviously, as the curator of that workshop, but what was your biggest takeaway? And what did you also see the participants' biggest takeaway?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you this one quote pretty much sums it up, is that we all have a lot of work to do. We go to work with a to-do list, but we have no idea how to do what we want to get done. And it doesn't mean that we're not good business people or good managers or good leaders. It's just no one's taught us a system or a structure for that. Where I saw participants, by the way, we did 3 live workshops specific to execution at the FiLL. And then we had to do a 4th virtual one 2 weeks later after everyone went home, because there were so many people that wanted to sit in that workshop. So we actually had the majority of the audience from the FiLL participate in this workshop. And what we saw was where people got the most excited, especially the highest level leaders or the owner, was that they had tools now that could help them manage their managers. Let me say that again. So there has been a vacuum of tools, meaning a lack of structure that helps leaders teach the people that are their direct reports how to get done what is most important for them to get done. And so the 13-week planner, that one has been a game changer for a lot of leaders that are doing the execution work, because now they have a tangible tool that they could talk to their to the people that they manage on a weekly basis And now it's super clear what's supposed to be done this week. What did you get done last week? And what are you going to work on next week? It's really tangible, and it brings accountability to the forefront to a lot of these conversations, which can be a little rough, but once you know what you know, you can't unknow it. And if you know your team is struggling, staying focused, then using these types of tools will be a big payoff for businesses.
I love it. What are you most looking forward to about 2023, the FiLL?
Okay, so the conversation around execution, we're going to continue going deeper, and not just granular, but we're going to be stepping back. So what you can expect is some complementary work that we're going to be doing that will zoom out to a much bigger scale, and then also zooming down. So we're going to be creating new tools that will give managers a way to focus on their work, even on within a week, on a daily basis. So I think it's going to be very exciting to see the tools that spin out of this upcoming workshop, because it's just going to be giving people more of what we crave, which is ways to do what we need to do. So that's what I'm most excited about. We've got a great foundation, and we're getting great results. Anyone has been doing the execution work would say, wow, it's been really helpful in our company. We've actually, and I don't want to take up too much time, we've actually seen owners going into, especially our multi-location companies, they've realized they've had to restructure and get people in different roles because the way they had their team set up wasn't giving them the results that they wanted. So there's a lot of ahas that will bubble up out of this.
I love this. I am so excited. And I think one of the things that I think we all as business owners, I think the challenge is a lot of times we might think we're great at execution, right? It's like, I don't have a problem with execution, but chances are your team probably does. And that's where the frustration comes, right? So I love that these tools create support for managers to really understand the importance of execution and actually measuring and breaking down some of these bite-sized, these items into bite-sized chunks to make execution a bit more seamless, because that's really what's going to enable growth and scalability. And I'm just very, very excited for this year. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Let me make one more comment. That again, this work, if you're leading a leadership team, this doesn't replace how they personally manage their lives. So this isn't going to keep them from using an old school day planner if that's what they like, or using a Google Calendar or their Apple Calendar. They'll do all of the work to get the clarity on what needs to get done, and then they'll pick up from how they manage themselves on a day-to-day basis. So if they like to enter everything into their calendar, great. If they do to-do lists and write on a paper calendar, that's great too. So we're really focused on getting clear and getting the accountability in place so they understand what they're supposed to do, and giving them the structure on how to do it. And then they pick up from there. Whatever tools they personally like to use to stay accountable, they'll plug those in.
I love it.
And super excited.
I love it. Well, Heath, thank you so much for taking your time out and being with us. And I know everybody's very, very excited to be back with you at the FiLL, because you really are the execution guru. And so I just can't wait to see what's next.